Have you ever noticed that some games never really die? They might come back with a fresh coat of paint or a new name, but at their core, they're still the same. Take Balatro, for example. It's built on poker, a game that's been around for decades. But regardless, people were addicted to it. It made something old feel completely new. But that's just the beginning, because it isn't only Balatro. Across the world, developers are taking these old foundations and innovating on top of them, creating games that feel both familiar and completely fresh. But why does this keep happening? What's the secret behind these decade-old ideas having a resurgence 5, 10, almost 100 years later? Well, I've uncovered the real reason why these games keep on gaining popularity and why developers everywhere are evolving old ideas in ways you might never expect. Think about the most iconic games in history: poker, Tetris, hell, even slot machines. They all have one thing in common: a core mechanic that makes them instantly recognizable. Poker has the iconic hands in gambling, Tetris, fitting bricks together to form a line, and slot machines, well, you kind of just pull a lever and either lose your life savings or become omega rich. But here's the thing, it's not really about skill or mastery at all. Instead, the magic lies in how easy the game is to understand. The simpler the game is, the easier it becomes to twist into something entirely different. Going back to Balatro, it's a lot different from poker. Firstly, you aren't competing against someone else. You score points based on how good your hand is. A pretty simple foundation, but that isn't why it got popular. There's one thing the developer added that changed everything: jokers. In actual poker, they aren't a part of the deck, but in Balatro, they're cards that have unique effects that can synergize with each other and literally blow up your score. Balatro's the obvious example, but another one that you might not have heard of is a little game called Ball X Pit. I actually got a comment about this not too long ago, but it came out like a month ago and already has 6,000 positive reviews. It puts a spin on Brick Breaker, the game you definitely played at least once because you had nothing better to do. But just like Balatro, it changes the original game by adding power-ups that can completely change the outcome every single time you play. I am the roguelike guy, so I'm inherently biased towards these type of games. But it's not just roguelikes. I mean, take Tricky Towers for example. It's essentially one-to-one with Tetris, except you compete against your friends in specific minigames. And just like the first two, you get certain power-ups that spice up the game. So the formula starts to get obvious, and it's pretty simple. Take games that are already known with recognizable mechanics and completely twist them on their head. This works because people gravitate towards something they already know. We're unfortunately all victims of familiarity bias, but honestly, it might be a good thing. For new gamers who can get overwhelmed at the idea of jumping headfirst into an intense game of Valorant, or the vastness of Hollow Knight, these reinvented games serve as a soft introduction, an easy launchpad for people who aren't too familiar with games, to click with the mechanics within seconds. But that's not all, because it's also a massive win for average gamers. I have a question. Are you the type of person to scroll through your entire game library, hesitating to start those backlogs you've been meaning to play for years? Well, I am too. But the difference with these reinvented games is that there's little to no pressure. There's no need to invest hundreds of hours leveling up, or dive into a fantasy world where every choice feels like life or death. Instead, these games target the complete opposite. They're easy to pick up, easy to put down, and instantly satisfying from the very first moment. The secret why people fall in love with these games is because they're not entirely new experiences. They're based on the foundations you're already familiar with, but each one adds its own unique spices. You know what? Think about it like cooking. If I give eggs to 10 different chefs, think about how many different recipes they could all make. Scrambled, sunny side up, omelets, and if you add other food into the mix, the possibilities become endless. That's exactly how game developers are approaching this design, taking the base game, the egg, and adding their own flavors to make something completely new. That's why these classic foundations still feel so enjoyable. They never get boring because there's always another recipe to try. But we can take this one step further. Think streamers. What do streamers have to do with any of this? Well, normally, the best way that games get a lot of traction are from creators themselves. They have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people constantly watching them. And when a game is easy to understand, but full of surprising twists, it's perfect for viewers. They can easily follow along without getting lost, while still being able to comprehend what's happening. Think of some of the biggest variety streamers. Let's take Queso for example. He purposely plays simple games that are well known and people can understand, and he's absolutely blown up because of it. You don't see Queso playing League of Legends, Dota 2, or any games that don't feel too interactive to the average viewer. So when you combine simple, familiar mechanics with the uniqueness we just talked about, and put it in front of an audience, it's no wonder why games like Balatro, Roguelikes Pit, and Tricky Towers can explode in popularity overnight. But let's not forget one of the most important factors, friends. I'm gonna have to talk about that game, Among Us. God, this game has aged so poorly. But we have to give it credit, because it really did ignite a resurgence in these reinvented games. Among Us is a social deduction game based on Mafia and Werewolf. The reason why it blew up is because it tapped into that familiar pattern, but added new twists and accessibility. And once again, was simple enough for massive amounts of people to engage in it without being confused. And now the big question. Why does it seem like every single developer is still chasing these same ideas? Well, actually, the answer is pretty simple. These foundations have been proven to work. They stay consistent and popular for years. So of course, if someone adds their own spin to it, they aren't risking a lot. Think about how much time it takes to develop a game. Months, years, sometimes even longer. They don't have enough resources to make these risky projects. So these indie devs purposely go for things that already have worked, evolving timeless classics into modern day hits. And honestly, it makes you wonder, what games could also use that same treatment? Let's follow the structure we spoke about this entire time. First, the game has to be simple enough to revolve around one core mechanic. Second, it has to have a strong foundation that's easy to innovate on with lots of variety. Personally, the first game that pops into my mind is Plants vs. Zombies. I've been fiending for a roguelike version of PvZ. I think it has the perfect structure to become one. I try to see if there are any, but most of them are small games on itch.io, so that's definitely my #1 dream. But some other games that I feel like would fit perfectly are Pinball, Block Blast, Candy Crush, and some sort of fishing. And if you have any ideas, I'd actually love to hear them in the comments, because I'm definitely missing some things. There are so many games that can be iterated on that have the potential to take over the world, just like Balatro. But going back, Balatro isn't just a modern poker game. It's actually proof that the past can fuel the future, that old mechanics, simple foundations, and familiar patterns can evolve into the next big thing. Appreciate you all. Have a good one.